Welcome back to So What Does That Mean? The podcast where we break down engineering, planning, and construction in plain English. I'm Brendan from JCE.
And I'm Joe. If you're a developer, builder, homeowner, or just someone trying to make sense of the construction world, you're in the right place.
Every episode, we take a topic that costs people real money, real time, and real stress, and we unpack it so you actually understand what's going on, why it matters, and what you can do about it.
No jargon walls, no lectures, just practical, common sense advice from the people who see these problems every single day. All right, Brendan, today we're going to upset some people. I feel like that's a common theme lately because we're talking about owner builders. And I know a lot of people listening will either be considering it or will know someone who's done it. The pitch is always the same. Cut out the builder, save 20%. How hard can it be? You've seen a lot of these go wrong, haven't you?
Look, I want to be careful here because I don't want to be dismissive. There are people who own a build successfully and do a fantastic job. But the ones who come to us, they're usually the ones who are halfway through, way over budget, tangled in compliance issues, and wishing they'd done it differently. And I think people deserve to hear about the risks before they commit, not after.
Okay, so let's talk about owner building in Queensland specifically. What does the law actually require?
Right. So in Queensland, under the QBCC Act, you need an owner-builder permit for any residential building work valued over $18,000. That's the 2026 threshold. Sounds simple enough. You do a short course, you apply for the permit, and away you go. But here's what the permit doesn't tell you. The moment that you get the permit, you become a builder legally. You take on every single obligation that a licensed builder would carry. And most people have absolutely no idea what that means.
So what obligations specifically are you talking about?
The big one is statutory warranty. As an owner builder, you carry personal liability for defects for 6 years and 6 months for structural defects from the date of building approval. Not 6 years from when you finish. 6 years and 6 months. And here's the kicker. There's no QBCC home warranty insurance to fall back on. That insurance only applies to licensed builders. You're on your own. If something goes wrong structurally in year 5 and someone makes a claim, that comes out of your pocket, your personal pocket.
So you're saying there's absolutely no insurance at all?
No home warranty insurance. You might have building insurance during construction, and you should, but the statutory warranty, the obligation to fix defects, that's you. And it gets worse if you sell. If you sell an owner-built property within 6 years of the building approval being finished, you must disclose the owner-builder status to the buyer. It's a legal requirement, and the buyer is entitled to get a defect inspection before they purchase. Failure to disclose is an offence under Queensland law.
So essentially, it follows you. You can't just build it and then sell it without anyone knowing.
It follows you. And here's the financial side that really catches people off guard. The common pitch for owner building is that you'll save 15 to 25% on labour management costs. And in theory, that's true. You're not paying a builder's margin. But in practice, many owner builders actually spend more than they would have with a licensed builder because of rework, because of delays, because of coordination failures between trades, because of things they didn't know they needed, like structural engineering, NatHERS assessments, certifier fees that weren't in their original budget.
And what does proper engineering cost on a typical residential project?
Structural engineering on a standard residential project, footings, slabs, steel beams, load paths, you're looking roughly around $2,500 to $6,000. NatHERS energy assessment, $500 to $1,200. Private certifier for building approval and inspections, $1,500 to $3,500. So call it $5,000 to $10,000 in professional fees that are non-negotiable. You need them regardless of whether you're an owner builder or using a licensed builder. The difference is a licensed builder knows to include those in the budget from day one. An owner builder often doesn't discover them until they're mid-build and someone tells them they can't pour their footings until they've got an engineer's certificate.
And the rework problem, how does that hit owner builders specifically?
Harder than anyone else, because an owner builder is usually coordinating trades for the first time. They don't know the sequence. They don't know which trade needs to finish before the next one starts. They don't know that the plumber needs to install pipework before the slab goes down, not after. Or that the waterproofing membrane needs 72 hours to cure before the tiler can start. Every sequencing error creates rework. And as we've discussed in previous episodes, rework can account for up to 39% of total project costs in the worst cases. Even at the conservative end, 12%. On a $400,000 build, that's $48,000. There goes your savings.
And you can't just do all the work yourself either, right?
No, and this is another misconception. The owner-builder permit, it gives you authority to manage the project. It does not give you authority to do all the work. In Queensland, plumbing, electrical, waterproofing, and gas fitting must be done by licensed tradespeople. Full stop. If you do that work yourself without the relevant license, you're breaking the law. And the QBCC is actively enforcing this. In 2025, they finalised 39 court matters, resulting in nearly $578,000 in fines and compensation for unlicensed and non-compliant work. They're not messing around.
Let me round up those numbers. You need a permit for anything over $18,000. You carry personal defects liability for 6.5 years with no warranty insurance. You must disclose if you sell within that 6-year period. Professional fees alone are $5,000 to $10,000 minimum. Rework can eat 12 to 39% of your total budget. Licensed trades are mandatory for plumbing, electrical, waterproofing, and gas. And the QBCC handed out over $500,000 in fines last year for non-compliance.
And the person carrying all of that risk is you, not a company, not an insured entity. You personally. That's the bit that most people don't fully appreciate when they start down the owner-builder path.
All right, so we're not saying owner building is always a bad idea, but who does it actually work for?
It works for people who go in with their eyes open, a realistic budget, including risk and contingencies, and proper professional support. It typically works best for people with some construction industry experience. They understand sequencing, they know what questions to ask, they have trade contacts. It also works when the scope is relatively contained. A major renovation, a simple single-story house, a granny flat, not a 2-story custom design on a sloping site with reactive soils. Commonly, successful owner builders invest in professional advice up front. Engineering, design, certification, project management guidance. They don't try to wing it.
What about people who are thinking about it because builders are so expensive right now? They genuinely can't afford a licensed builder. Is the owner builder a good option for them?
We need to understand why builders are expensive. It's not all profit margin. A significant chunk is insurance, compliance, warranty cover, and professional fees that you'll still have to pay as an owner builder. If your budget is already tight, owner building is arguably riskier because any mistake or unforeseen cost has no buffer to absorb it. The cruel reality is people who can least afford a builder are often the people who can least afford the consequences of owner building going wrong. Some alternatives to consider: smaller scope, a simpler design, staged approach, or even a cost-plus contract with a smaller builder where you maintain more visibility over the costs. The cheapest way to build is to build right the first time, whether you're an owner builder or using a licensed builder. That always starts with good engineering and good documentation.
What about the resale issue? Because a lot of people owner build with the intention of selling. Does the owner built status actually hurt the value of the property?
In practice, yes. Many buyers and their solicitors are cautious about owner-built properties because there's no warranty insurance backing the work. The mandatory disclosure means the buyer knows it's owner-built, and a savvy buyer will get a thorough defect inspection before purchase. Any defects identified become a negotiation point, and since the owner-builder carries personal liability, the buyer has significant leverage. Some lenders are also cautious about financing owner-built properties, which can limit the buyer pool. If you own a building with a view to selling, invest heavily in doing it right. Get independent inspections at every stage. Keep meticulous records because a well-documented, professionally inspected owner build can actually be fine, but a poorly documented one can be very hard to sell.
What's the one thing someone should do before committing to an owner builder permit?
Get a proper cost estimate from an independent quantity surveyor or experienced engineer, including all professional fees, all compliance costs, and a minimum 15% contingency. Compare that realistic number to 2 or 3 quotes from licensed builders. Often the gap is much smaller than people expect once you account for everything. Talk to an engineer about the site, slopes, soils, drainage, retaining services. The complexities of the site drives the risk. A flat, well-drained block with good soils is a completely different proposition to a sloping, reactive clay site. If, after doing all that, you still want to proceed, do it with professional support, engineer, designer, certifier, and ideally a project management consultant who can guide your trade sequencing. Owner building isn't free. It's just a different way of paying. Make sure you know what the bill is before you commit.
If you're listening to this and thinking about going the owner builder route, or if you know someone who is, what's the best first step?
Have a conversation with an engineer, not to talk you out of it, but to give you an honest picture of what's involved for your specific site and your specific project. 30 minutes of honest advice up front can save you 12 months of pain and $100,000 of rework. I've seen it too many times to count.
And that's what JCE does. No judgment, just straight answers.
Exactly. We'd rather tell you the hard truth now than watch you learn it the expensive way. That's our whole thing.
Share this one, folks, especially with anyone who's got stars in their eyes about owner building. It might be the reality check they need.
And as always, topics, questions, even war stories, send them through. We love hearing from you.
Thanks, everyone. Catch you next time.
See you in the next one.